Granit Xhaka left Arsenal with a lot of positivity around his name. It was a rocky start to his Arsenal career, but by the end, there was a huge amount of respect towards him from fans and also staff. However, I'm going to be telling you the real reason why Granit Xhaka left Arsenal, because he was a top player and you certainly could say he had a lot more years left in him for this club. But before I begin, if you're new here, please smash the like button, smash the subscribe button, and turn on notifications to never miss a video like this. Granit Xhaka had a year left on his contract with an option for the club to extend for another year on top when Leverkusen contacted him in the spring. He talked to Edu, Arsenal sporting director, who told him that Arsenal were not ready to give him a new contract at that moment. Leverkusen didn't want to force the issue too much out of consideration for him, and with Arsenal being involved in the title race, but his mind was quickly made up. There was a lot of talk about Granit Xhaka being unhappy at Arsenal because his wife wanted to move, but he also debunked this, saying his wife actually wanted to stay in London and wasn't sure about the move. But Granit Xhaka was adamant. He stated on one hand, he was a bit sad that Arsenal didn't want to extend his contract, but on the other hand, he was also quite happy because he didn't like the uncertainty. He said Leverkusen's plan for him was clear, and leaving Arsenal after 7 years wasn't easy on an emotional level after all the good and bad things. But he said it was totally the right decision, and of course he is happy with it working out. And you can't really blame him because the Leverkusen move has gone so well, with Leverkusen winning the Bundesliga and in the semi-finals of the Europa League, and also the final of the Cup. They are on for the treble. And there's been a lot of times this season where Arsenal fans have missed Granit Xhaka, and that just goes to show how much of a quality player he is. He is definitely one of the player of the seasons for Leverkusen, showing his class and consistency as well as availability, one of the most important aspects of football. When he was asked about the similarities between Xabi Alonso and Mikel Arteta, Granit Xhaka said Mikel showed him a whole new way of looking at football by focusing on the basics. The stuff from your teenage years you might have forgotten: pressing, body shape, positioning, movement, coming out of someone's cover shadow, communication on the pitch. But then Xhaka also says Xabi is so similar. The Spaniard sees football differently than others. And when he heard Xavi speak about his ideas for the first time, he thought, I've done this before under Mikel. It's a different coach, but the same philosophy. He states that Xabi was more hands-on on the pitch. He runs more than some of the players and is eager to show his squad how to do certain things on the pitch. Whereas Arteta preferred video analysis and tactic boards to get his message across. But they both exclude natural authority and command huge respect because of their skills as footballers. Xhaka has also talked about his Arsenal career and specifically the incidents and that moment at Crystal Palace. In his first few years at Arsenal, Xhaka frequently found himself as a lightning rod for all the anger and disenchantment that coloured much of the late years of Arsene Wenger's reign, with many critics comparing him unfavourably to Patrick Vieira and other midfield heroes of a golden age, who in reality he couldn't live up to. After his teammates had voted him captain during Unai Emery's short-lived time as Wenger's successor, Xhaka continued to divide opinion amongst the supporters. And things came to an ugly head in October 2019, as he was booed off when substituted with half an hour still to play in a 2-2 draw at home against Crystal Palace. Xhaka reacted angrily, including taking off his Arsenal shirt and throwing it to the ground. When asked about the interview, Granit Xhaka said, "To this day, I can't really say what happened. A week earlier, he felt something which was amiss during the game at Sheffield United. But then when he played away from home, he said you don't really feel or know who's whistling, and he simply couldn't imagine it to be the Arsenal fans." He said Palace was not a bad game from him, or not his best game either. He was surprised to see his number up as captain in the 60th minute, and he thought maybe it was a misunderstanding. Perhaps they thought he was annoyed with the substitution and they booed him immediately. He thought, okay, it's me against 60,000. What was he supposed to do? And looking back, he said he regrets things, but maybe you're also happy that you did certain things. He's still not sure, but he does know that day wasn't easy. He said getting booed by his own fans was hurtful, but what hurt him more was the fact that the fans went after his family. Seeing the way his family suffered from this made him very upset. And after that, he said that Arsenal actually showed him little respect. And that when he was stripped of the captaincy, he had many black days sitting in his hotel room for away games, realising what had happened. Not even talking to his family about his fall from grace made things worse, but he tried to keep how much he suffered from his loved ones. He didn't want them to feel bad because they were more worried about him than he was. Perhaps they also wanted to protect him and not bring back those thoughts, but he was completely devastated. Even now in his days at Leverkusen, he still recalls and says he struggles to understand how and why he got into that mess, but he's very clear on how he got out of it. With Emery being fired a month later, with Arteta replacing him, Arteta saved his Arsenal career. He says he's forever grateful for Mikel, who picked him up and brought him back to playing at the level he always knew he could play at. He was sure of his quality and didn't care what anyone else said. And 4 years later, it ended with him almost scoring a hat-trick against Wolves on the final day, with Arsenal fans screaming that they wanted him to stay. He stated it was a goosebumps moment and he can't describe in words how happy his family was, hearing that after everything that had gone on before, he was loved and appreciated. Although Arsenal couldn't quite maintain their run as they battled Manchester City for the Premier League in the spring, he says that experience has helped him on his way to winning the Bundesliga with Bayer Leverkusen. He says that Xhaka and Gabriel Martinelli, with their rocket-type play up front, are the same as Jeremy Frimpong and Florian Wirtz at Leverkusen. He said Leverkusen managed to keep their feet on the ground and that Arsenal was super close but couldn't quite keep up. He said you need a bit of luck and that he is certain he would have won the league if Saliba wasn't lost for half the season and Thomas Partey hadn't missed a lot of the games. Xhaka is still in contact with a lot of the Arsenal assistants, staff and players. He says he almost talks every day to Carlos Cuesta and remains friends with Partey, Zinchenko, Jesus and Cedric. He watches as many of their games as possible and desperately wants them to win the Premier League. And he did come and visit us in the home game against West Ham, which we unfortunately did lose. But it was an opportunity for him to say goodbye properly. And whilst he's at it, he did offer a lot of advice to Kai Havertz, saying it's not easy when everyone is on you and that number 8 spot is a very difficult place to play. But Granit Xhaka has faith, or had faith, in Kai Havertz that he would come good. And look at Havertz now. Although he's not in that number 8 position, he is thriving. And he's showing that with all those pressures on him, he can still be as fantastic as he is now. Similar to Granit Xhaka, he has revived his football career under Mikel Arteta. History has almost repeated itself again. But anyway, that's it for now, Gunners. Hope you enjoyed this video on Granit Xhaka and the real reason he left Arsenal and how he's used his experiences at Arsenal to win the league with Bayer Leverkusen. He'll always be a cult hero for his time at the club, but it's only right to end this video by showing you this beautiful video from Granit Xhaka made last week.
What do you think about Tottenham?